G'day, my name's Sam Owen, and this is my task 1, aspect 2 on my personal response to wellbeing. So here we go. I'll give you a bit of background and where I think I've shown resilience and where I've also my wellbeing's been compromised in my life. So I'll start off. Mum and Dad broke up when I was about 7, which that's not a big deal. That happens in a lot of families. I stayed living with Dad here in Noosa, and my mum and my 2 older sisters ended up moving away down to New South Wales and living. So I stayed here with Dad, and he was a very good man. He was a very hard worker. He had very strong ethics, good ethics. He was a really good role model as well. So I lived with Dad for about 4 years. About that time, Dad had found himself a partner, and it had only been him and me for the 4 years. I sort of struggled with sharing him. So at that point, so I was about 11, at that point I went down and lived with Mum in New South Wales. When I moved to New South Wales, it was at the end of year 6 for me. So I was about to start year 7. I hadn't been made aware that year 7 was at the start of high school down there, so I was pretty unprepared. So anyway, moved down and lived with Mum. Mum is just a lovely lady, but she was a totally different person than Dad. Mum, she has always had her own. She's always just followed her own path. She's very self-absorbed, Mum. I love her, but she's a very self-absorbed sort of person. Anyway, so I went down and lived with Mum. Started high school. Just give you a think. Mum had, when leaving Dad there were a lot of rules in place. I wasn't allowed, that I had to abide by. But when I moved down to Mum's, there was no rules at all. An example, is, so my 2 older sisters, so the one that's just older than me, she was 13 at the time. Mum would let her partner come over and they'd sleep together, and my older sister, who at the time was only 16, let the partners come over. There was always drugs in the house, always alcohol being drunk in the house. It was never a big deal. Smoking, drinking, or drugs, whatever. So anyway, I started school down there, and I had a lot of troubles in the school because I suppose I was struggling with my own well-being at the time. Feeling a little bit lost, missing Dad. Anyway, so I went to that school. It was O'Connor. I lasted there about, 5 months, 6 months, and I'd gotten in trouble a lot while I was there, but then anyway I got to the point where they put me on indefinite suspension. So I left, and I went to another school down there. I went to a school called Javel. And anyway, so while I was in Javel, same sort of deal happened. I was in a lot of trouble. I was only allowed to go 2 periods a day to the actual school. The truancy officer used to have to pick me up and drop me off. And anyway, so I didn't last there for long either. I only lasted, whatever time, not long. So then Mum had sort of had enough, and she sent me down to stay with some friends of hers down at Kempsey. I went down to Kempsey, went to school there for a little while, lasted I think I went to school for like 18 days in something like 3 months or 4 months. So I was just smoking dope and being home and surfing and just doing what I sort of wanted to do. Anyway, so that didn't work out. I was also getting a bit of trouble with the police, so that didn't work out, so I came back to Mum's. At that stage, Mum she was wrapped up in a relationship, but there wasn't any room for me and my sisters in that situation. So it made it a little bit hard when I got there. So I went to a new school again. This was the 4th school. This is at the beginning of year 9 now. So 96, beginning of year 9, I'm going to my 4th school. And I only lasted there until, I think it was about March or something like that. And I got put on indefinite suspension. They said that, so it came to April, halfway through April, they said I was able to come back. As I was going back to the school, I said to Mum, I don't want to go to school anymore. She goes, yeah, all right, job's right. So I didn't, that was the end of my schooling. At the same time, around the same time, Mum's gone and moved in with this new partner, but there was no room for me or my sisters there. So at that point in my life, I was feeling pretty low. I wanted to go back to Dad's, but I couldn't, because I didn't want to go and live with him and his partner, and they had she had 3 kids. I just didn't want to go to that situation. I was feeling my well-being was probably at its lowest then. So I moved down onto a property down in New South Wales with these guys that I knew from around town, and all we did out there was smoke dope, grow dope, and yeah, I was really, that's probably, I can look back now and know that was the lowest point in my life. Anyway, around that same time, I was also getting in a lot of trouble, and I'd been picked up by the police a few times, and I was starting to get a bit of a name for myself. And I was lucky. At that point in my life, Dad came to my rescue, not in the way of me going and living with him, but he organised me an apprenticeship down in Brisbane to go and work as an apprentice carpenter. And he organised me, it was through one of his mates, and he organised me to go and live with this guy and work with him. That was a turning point in my life. That was a big turning point in my life. I worked for this guy and lived with him for about, 4 years. And I still stayed with them even after I'd finished my apprenticeship for a little while and worked down there. So I believe that, I showed resiliency at that time in my life. But I could have gone no with the apprenticeship. I could have just stayed where I was, doing the same things I was doing. But I chose, I think I showed resiliency by coming forward and going and doing my apprenticeship, leaving that life behind me. So other points where my well-being is been compromised through my life is working as a carpenter. When the GFC hit, there was no work around town, and with our young family, for me that was a real shock, and I got very worried for a little while. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had options. I could have gone and moved away and worked, but I couldn't leave the family. I didn't want to leave the family here. So I decided that I would follow a dream of mine, which is something I've always wanted to do, but because of leaving school so young and everything, it just wasn't a possibility. I enrolled to do the Bachelor of Learning Management. And actually before that I did a little bit of uni at USC, and then I came over to CQU and enrolled in the Bachelor of Learning Management. Once again, I believe I've shown resilience in my life through where my well-being was at its was very low, through not having any work and wondering how I'm going to provide for my family, to being able to change the whole course of what all I've known how to do is build. That's all I've ever known how to do is do carpentry. So to be able to turn that around now and be heading in the direction of having 6 months, or not even, it's nearly 4 months until I finish my degree, I think I've shown a lot of resilience, being able to change the way I am. Another time where I think I've shown, just in this same period of time where I think I've shown resilience, my well-being has been at the lowest, was me and my dad have always been close. Even though I didn't live with him for that short time, him and I have been very close. But in 2013, he passed away on Christmas Day. And that was with doing the uni, I think I showed resiliency. My well-being was very low after losing Dad, and I'd also lost my grandma just only a couple of months prior to that. And we were all close. Dad and my grandma and me were very close. So once again, I think I've shown resiliency, being able to come through those things, continue with my degree and not let it hold me back, even though at times my mental health and my well-being has been so low. So the things that I think have helped me through my life, the things that have been my protective factors that have helped me, has been love and support of my family. Not mum, but my older sister and my dad and my grandma have been real rocks for me. They've supported me and always let me know that, yes, Sam, you can do it. You can do this. That sort of support has really it's pushed me along heaps. Having good role models, people to look up to, people that I've wanted to aspire to be like, and that has been my dad. I've always wanted to aspire to be like him because he was a very special man. The skills that I've gotten throughout my life has also taught me how to deal with these things. But I think without having those good, strong, emotional and supporting people around me, I don't think I would be able to do, and I don't think I'd be where I am today. So I hope this has given an insight. I hope I've addressed the criteria right for this, but so with what I've explained, I think I have been through some tough times in my life, but I think I have, and where my own well-being has been at a low, but I've showed resiliency by always coming back and coming back and coming back, and with the end picture in mind. So anyway, thanks for listening.